Hi everyone, welcome back to Caseborough. Today I'm really excited to be filming a Bookhaul video. These books I didn't gather in a single shopping haul. That would kind of be crazy because I think there are at least 20 books here. But I've been kind of gathering from used bookstores and also online sources of used books from this February. So let's get into it. So to begin and to kind of get out of the way, I have this huge, not huge, but like kind of a lot of books on Ian Forster and by Ian Forster. With Ian Forster, last year I had a period where I was kind of like reading Ian Forster novels back to back to back. So I'm really interested in getting to know him better as an author and also as a person. I think Forster kind of had a really interesting life not just because, but like at least part of it is that he just lived a very long life. I think he lived up to about like 94. So he was born in the Edwardian era, and then he went through the First World War, the Second World War, and then he died in the 1960s. So that's a very long life and a life where the world changed a lot. So I'm really excited to learn more about him as an author and as a person, as I said. So the first two books here are essay selections by Ian Forster. One is called Abinger Harvest. I think that's how we say it. It's not Abinger Harvest, I'm hoping. And another one is called Two Cheers for Democracy. I know that I read some of the essays in here already, but the essays kind of range from political to artistic essays, so excited to get into it. And then another book that I have is Ian Forster by Lionel Trilling. This was the book that I first got to know, like when I was like looking for essays or like books on Ian Forster. So I'm really excited to read this book. I know that the first sentence of this book is pretty famous. It says, Ian Forster is for me the only living novelist who can be read again and again, and who, after each reading, gives me what few writers can give us after our first days of novel reading, the sensation of having learned something. So that's a pretty high praise, I think. And also one that I do kind of agree with after having read all of his novels. I think there is some kind of like quiet bravery in many of his books. So I'm excited to read about Mr. Trilling's ideas on Ian Forster. And then I have these two biographies. The famous biography by P.N. Burbank, Ian Forster Alive. This is a huge chunker, and a slightly shorter book. Another Life by Wendy Moffat, a great unrecorded history. Yeah, so I'm really excited to read these biographies. Usually biographies don't tend to really interest me that much. I don't know why. I don't know. But these two books, I know that I'm interested in the topic of the biography, so hopefully I'll have a better time. And then I have a Pharos and Babylon by Ian Forster. These are like sketches on Alexandria in Egypt. I have a very distinct memory of so like when I was young, I lived in Egypt because of my father's job, and like I have a very distinct memory of kind of like begging my parents to go to Alexandria because I wanted to see the Alexandrian like library and all the other like historical things there. I was really interested in history when I was a child, and then I went to Alexandria, and well, the modern Alexandria is not the there's no, I think there, at least from what I could gather, there was no trace of the the great Alexandria in the ancient history, which is understandable because it is ancient history. But like when I was young, I remember being like so disappointed and incredibly saddened, and also incredibly, I don't know how I felt about this, but like I think it was one of those moments where as a child I understood that this era that I'm living is not the first era of even human history, and that like how everything can just turn into oblivion. Yeah. So yeah, I'm really excited to read his Forster's sketches on Alexandria. I know that there is also an essay on CP Cavafy here, so I'm really excited because I am a big fan of Cavafy's poems. And then the last two volumes here are Letters by Ian Forster. This is volume 2 and this is volume 1. I think one thing that is kind of nifty is that they have like different types of different portraits of Forster here. This is volume 1, so the cover has a younger Forster here, and here there is an older Forster, and like this is kind of like a call for help. So I got this in like used book form, obviously. So like one thing that I got was this newspaper, which is really cool. I think this is kind of like a review of this volume, like, so this is really interesting to have here. But the problem is, so basically, yeah, the book looks like this. So it's ripped apart. It is kind of gruesome. I know that I shouldn't be using a regular bond to cure this book. So basically it looks like that. So if anyone has like a suggestion on what I should be doing to I guess like make this book better, like to hospitalize the book and then perform surgery on it, leave that in the comments. I would be really, really, really grateful. So yeah. And then the next pile of books here I got from the local used bookstore. One is a weird book that I got. I don't know why I got this, but like this is a book on gardening, and like I think it's about like natural pesticides. I think I got this book just because of the beautiful, like they have really pretty pictures in there, and yeah, it's really interesting. Like who can deny oneself a pretty book, right? So that's what I got. I think that's why I got this book. So here. And then another book I got was a book on H.L. Mencken. Excited to be reading this collection of essays, I think. And then 2 books on the Spanish Civil War. Although to be fair, last year I was reading Hemingway's book on the same topic, and I didn't have a great time. But I'm hoping this time this time will be better. So the first one is Homage to Catalonia, and there are other books here as well. I think the cover is really pretty, right? Look at this. It's very pretty. And then another book by Elliot Pohl called The Life and Death of a Spanish Town. Yeah, so it's got a map here. See? So yeah, really excited to be reading this book. These 2 books. I'm guessing I'll be reading them like back to back. Another book. I didn't get this book in a used bookstore. I just got it new. Like, see, the state of the book is totally different. This is R. Kwang's Babel. Yeah, Babel. And I've never read Kwang's books. And she's so popular. I really, really need to try her out. And then this is the book that I think I first got in February when I began gathering these books. And like this is an example of a book where I couldn't get it anywhere. Like I couldn't get it, I don't know why, but I couldn't get it in Kindle at all. I looked for it through Amazon. I couldn't find it easily. So I kind of had to go to an online source where I could buy used books, and that's where I got this book. So this is Anthony Burgess' Earthly Powers. I've heard it's a great book. I've also heard that it can be a pretty like scandalous book for some reason. So excited. And then to go on to the next pile of books. Ugh, it's a lot. And it's pretty heavy too. One book, like in my local like bookstore, they have this like shelf. I'm sure most used bookstores have those kind of shelves. Like if you get a book from that shelf, it is just $1. That's why I got this book. Because I mean, look at the cover and look at the title. It's called Pastoralia. I know that this book was in the New York Times 100 like best novels in 21st century. So I'm sure that is one of the reasons I got this book. But like, I mean, the cover does not look that exciting. but I'm going to be talking about this book in my May wrap up video. But this book is very far from boring. It's very funny. It can be very raunchy too. I think Saunders, I kind of learned like while I was reading this book that Saunders is a pretty famous author with who I didn't know at all for some reason. But yeah, so I think Saunders is a really good craftsman of short stories. So definitely recommend this book, and I'll be talking about this book in the future. And then I got Wintership Down by Richard Adams. So this book I got because I kind of wanted to read this book for a few years. Again, this book I probably could have gotten in Kindle, but I mean, look at the rabbit. I mean, rabbits are terrifying, but I mean, the cover is pretty. So that's why I got it, and then I'm really excited to be reading this book. And then another book that I could have gotten on Kindle, but I just didn't because this was cheaper. This is Barbara Pym's Quartet in Autumn. Pym is another author that I'm really excited to get into. So I'm hoping that this is going to be a great introduction to the author. And then this is a quite unique book that I have here. This is Anne Carson's Notes. So basically it's like a book object. So here it says that, oh no, it's this book object can be kind of unwieldy to handle, but here it says this. Carson says that when her brother died, she made an epitaph for him in the form of a book. This is a replica of that book, as close as we could get. So this is a really unique book. Like, look at this. I don't know if the state of the book is because I got it in used form or if it just comes this way. So there are like bones here. And then it's like an accordion. Yeah, it's like an accordion. So yeah. And I know that I know this book is also a translation of Catullus' poem. Yeah, so excited to get into this book. I'm probably going to be reading it like this month. So yeah, this book also will be in my May wrap up. And then the next pile of books, 2 more piles left. Yeah, and so this is Enduring Poles by Natalie. So I'm interested in Polish history. I kind of got interested in Polish history from reading Tokarczuk or Olga Tokarczuk's books. Yeah, so but like this, I don't think this like is a pretty. This is like a definitive volume on Polish history. I kind of like flipped through it and like I don't know, but like was it like self-published? I have to wonder. So like this is so I went to school in Ann Arbor, and this was kind of like a, I think this was a sort of like a local book. So I think this book gathers stories from Polish residents and also other stories, but like usually Polish residents from Michigan. So yeah, I'm sure it's going to be again like same with the like gardening book. I'm sure it's going to be a wild read. So excited about that. And then the Safekeep. I mean, to be fair, I didn't need to get this book because I had already read this book in Kindle form, but this was this was a purchase of love. I had like this book was one of my favorite books of last year for several reasons. So I wanted to get this book just for my library. And then we have Housekeeping by Marilyn Robinson. As you can see, I've already read this book. This book also will be in my May wrap-up. To give a spoiler, not the biggest fan of this book, but again, this was like in the $1 shelf, so I guess like nothing much lost there. This is like Selected Diaries by Virginia Woolf. With Virginia Woolf, like I'm sure I'm not the only one. I love Virginia Woolf and her writing, but I also find that I always need to like take a deep breath and then start reading Woolf because her writing can be pretty tough. But as I said, I love Woolf's writing, and I always find myself returning to it. So I'm really excited to read her diary entries as well. Yeah, I'm sure it will help me get to know about the author a bit better. And then wow, 2 books left, guys. Wait. Actually, there are 4 books left. If you can't notice, I kind of came back to the pile because I realized that I have a bit more books to unhaul here on my shelf. So yeah, I should be better organized, I think. So and I also recognize that I have another book on Ian Forster. So I guess like this is a book by Ian Forster. This is his like commonplace book where he wrote notes on like the things that I read, and so yeah, there are like entries, like I guess that these are kind of like diary entries but like on books. I actually wanted to get his journals as well, Forster's journals as well, but they were so expensive that I couldn't justify getting it. They were like $300. So if you guys know any way I can get those volumes for a bit cheaper, let me know in the comments again. And then I have Cyril Connolly's selected essays. This was so shout out to Steve Donahue, I guess. This was a book recommended by him, so I got this book because I was interested in like reading older essays on literature. And then the last 2 volumes we have are by the same person. T.H. White's, these are volumes of T.H. White's The Once and Future King, and the epilogue of the series, the Book of Merlin. This is the Once and Future King. The volume is pretty standard. It's just that, but like I want to show you guys this. the Book of Merlin has pictures. So like this. They're pretty amazing pictures here. There are pretty amazing pictures in here. Owls and all those other animals. Yeah. So I had read like the Once and Future King, as well as the Book of Merlin last year, and I absolutely fell in love with the volumes. I think there's something special in those volumes. Yeah, so that's why I got these two books. And I'm excited to be to have those on my library. So that's it. That's it for my book haul. I guess I haven't counted, so I don't quite know how many books there were, but I think there were quite a lot. Excited to have these volumes on my shelf finally. So I guess that's it, and see you next week. Bye.